Righto, episode 11, we have John Fieldus. How you going, mate?
Going well, going
That's
well.
good. 40 years in real estate now.
Yeah, nearly. I
Nearly.
started in real estate the day after I left school in 1984. So, yeah, a couple of months away and 40 years. Yeah.
So down the sunny coast is your stomping grounds.
Yeah, started out in Rainbow Beach, a tiny little sort of coastal resort.
Yep.
Normal population was about 500. It blew out to several thousand over Christmas. But,
Yep.
yeah, I look back on that really fondly.
That's quite an unordinary town. Not many people you could say grew up on a nice little beautiful beach town of Rainbow, you could say, Fraser just north and
Yeah.
Double Island Point to the south. Like it's very
Yeah,
convenient
we got
spot.
to know it really well, and back in the '80s, we were kids. You'd get out on the bikes and ride up and down the beach. We were only 15, but they're the things that happened in the '80s.
Cherished memories, yeah.
And I was blessed, I guess, because we moved to Tin Can Bay from Western Sydney in 1974, and
Right.
I don't have very good memories of Western Sydney and good old Mount Druitt, but Tin Can Bay was a good change.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely a much smaller change anyway.
Yeah, significantly.
So what got you into real estate? How'd that come about?
Yeah, it was sort of lucky in a way, but you make your own luck in life as well. But I got to know the agent over at Rainbow Beach, and just informal chats. Wasn't really approaching it as an interview or anything like that. I just showed a lot of interest, and we got on well. And he offered me a job for 6 weeks just to get him over summer, and that was the start of 4 years in Rainbow Beach. So it was good.
Yeah, right. And what was the experience there? Was there massive turnover and properties being sold or listed or?
Yeah, it was, much more innocent days. It was a family business, just the husband and wife. They expanded by 50% when I came along.
Yeah, wow.
And it was a bit of everything. And I mean, I go back, I was 17 when I started. I was green as grass. And, I think I matured 10 years over that 4 years. You had to.
So over those 4 years, you've got the experience under your belt. What made you want to move to Gladstone and then take on the next step of actually working under Bruce and Edgar Allen at Ray White?
Yeah, a couple of things. I was connected with a lot of friends in Tin Can Bay, which was a fishing town, and they also operated out of Gladstone at times as well. So I sort of it's a funny thing. It's just luck as you go along. And so what I did is I came up to Gladstone, just to visit some friends up here, and in a bit of downtime when we weren't sort of out night clubbing and things. I was 18 on my first trip here. I took a look around, and I really liked it. I thought that it had a lot of good qualities about it. It appeared to be quite a young town, and it had a pulse as well. That's what attracted me. But what took me away from Rainbow Beach and Tin Can Bay was, strangely, I used to sit at the desk at the real estate office and watch the old guys walking up and down the street, and I'm going, that could be me in 50 years' time. Do I want to spend 50 years here? I don't think so. It's a lovely place, but it's more a place to see out your years rather than grow. And that's how it all come about.
You would say it's quite limited how far you could excel in your career?
I think so. I did 4 years there. I did everything from clean the front windows to put signs up to, I ended up doing the company books. I was doing some selling after about 12 months there as well. I enjoyed that immensely, but yeah, you're right. It was limited, and it was a bit of an all or nothing time there as well. Over the school holidays, it was gangbusters, and in the quiet times, you'd have 2 or 3 people come through the door in a day. So, during those sort of recess times, I thought, you know what, I like the busy times. I just want to be busy full time, and I just didn't see that there, and just purely due to location as well. It was, it was an hour's drive from Gympie, and then in those days, Gympie was in the middle of nowhere as well. So
Yep.
I just felt that this was a good mix. I didn't want to go to the city, but I didn't want to live in a sleepy town, and I think Gladstone's, somewhere in between.
Yep. Is that your watch making that sound?
no, that's my
Oh, is it?
yeah.
Oh,
I
wow.
got a heart valve. I had a
Oh, right.
yeah. I had a open heart surgery last year, and yeah, that's the valve ticking
Oh,
away.
wow.
Yeah. No, this watch wouldn't do it. It's Swiss. It's Swiss.
Yeah, I was about to say. No, cool, cool.
you,
Well,
you you must have good ears. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I must do maybe. Um, so Tin Can Bay, how's the story go? You pretty much come up in your old Datsun, you were saying. You packed everything you owned, fit all in the car,
Yeah. I
and
had
made your way up.
my first car I bought in Sydney. Actually, my dad was a used car salesman in Sydney. So to relive the dream, we went down to Sydney and bought a Toyota Crown, which had a huge boot, which was handy to get all my mates in when we went to the drive-in, and had heaps of bass for my stereo and all that sort of thing, just as a kid. But yeah, I upgraded to a Datsun 200B, and I was driving that backwards and forwards to work at Rainbow. It's chock a block full of rust by the time I left, but that was my car. And when we moved to, when I moved to Gladstone, I remember packing up my car and everything that I owned. I just put on the back seat. I didn't even put anything in the boot. So there was my stereo, my TV, and my clothes, and that was it. And I came here with nothing really. And my first time living out of home as well. So yeah, quite a yeah. Welcome to the adult world, I'd say. Yeah, definitely. I was 21 at the time.
Yep, and you've pretty much gone around doing a couple of job interviews.
Yeah, I love the telephone. So all I did is I rang four agents in Gladstone. The four major franchises. I really wanted to work for a franchise. I knew a little bit about Ray White, mainly through the Courier Mail, because they were just so dominant in that newspaper. They were the pole position agent. So um, yeah, I had just an unassuming chat with Edgar, and we seemed to take to each other. And he rang me up one Friday and said, we'd love to talk to you more. When can you come up? And I said, well, I'm not working today. So I jumped in the Datsun and up I came. 4 hours later, here I am sitting in front of him. And yeah, just flying by the seat of your pants. And, I think they appreciated that effort, and we got on famous. And uh, yeah, I ended up with something that changed my life when I met Edgar and Bruce. And terrific guys, really unassuming. They knew the town, but what I loved about them was that they knew the town, and they spoke to the town as if it was theirs, and it was a community service. The agency, it wasn't there to take, it was there to give, and I really like those values.
So pretty much, yeah, you've done the interview. I think you even mentioned in a documentary we were shooting a couple of weeks ago that they took you to the RSL or to the local pub and he's kicked on there and pretty much got the job at 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah, in retrospect, it was a bit of it was a good and it was funny how it all happened. It was a good and bad idea to have an interview with the boys at 4 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. I mean, I loved up in town at 3:30, so I scrambled, got myself done up a bit, and there I was in front of them at 4. They were as edgy as hell, and I didn't pick up onto it later that, hey, this is pub time. This is the social time. And so we congregated down at the RSL, and I remember paying respects to the soldiers at 6 p.m. and all this sort of thing. Um, and these guys were just so connected; they knew everyone. It was just like a club in a way. And I thought, wow, this is really high class. What they were doing, and they were in a funny way they were selling, but you just couldn't see that. And I never did with the boys. It was just so unassuming, and yeah, I really enjoyed watching them, and I enjoyed watching them for 20 years. In fact, it was awesome.
Networking is definitely a topic I want to talk to you about, but pretty much you've got the job at Ray White, and did you go sales or straight into property management from there?
Yeah, I went into property management. In terms of when I got the job, actually, too, I think I got it about 11 o'clock that night, but
Yep.
who knows? Neither of us can remember. Um, but yeah, I've sort of re-engaged with them on the Monday, and they offered me a job in property management, which I thought was good. I thought that that's a good way to learn the town. I was fairly across the property management brief. Through Rainbow Beach, we were looking after 110 properties there, so I understood it all. Um, but yeah, I took on a portfolio when I started of 193 properties, so it was significantly bigger. But I decided on property management. Also, I saw Gladstone is still sort of clawing its way out of a bust that happened several years before, a bit like what happened here a decade ago. And I saw the salespeople there just hoping and praying that the phone would ring. And it was those days where you had to bring your own lunch and bring your own pay as well.
Yep.
And I thought, wow, I don't think I could survive. So I just made a judgment. Um, so I started in 1988 in property management at Ray White Gladstone. And I didn't really change anything for about 14 years because I just fell in love with that side. The sales dynamic's good. I sort of freelanced into it, but I didn't enjoy it as much as property management. And I'm a guy that just follows his heart, rather than my head sometimes, but I do follow my heart.
To break down property management more, obviously you're looking after rental properties and commercial properties.
Yes.
What's more of a deep dive into it? Like what's the behind the scenes work that not a lot of people see that's involved in it?
Yeah, it's an interesting job where you're you're the guy on the fence, and so you got the landlords on one side of the fence, and they just see things in a let's say a black way, and then you got the tenants on the other side seeing it in a white way, and I'm up on the fence in the grey,
Mm.
and I love that dynamic. It's a real dance. Um, you've got diametrically opposed outcomes of what either party want, whether that's landlord or tenant, and my key focus is to make sure that everyone's happy. And not everyone gets things the way they want, but if they understand it and you're smart enough to articulate it and put forward a good case, you're pretty right. And that sounds a bit complicated, but it's not. It's in the simplicity of it as well. You've got to be relatable. You've got to be approachable. I think the thing with longevity in property management is to be wide open, cop it on the chin when you have to. It's more important what you don't say, and discipline people in a kind way as well. You manage. You're not there to negotiate. You're not there to um, take orders for sure. You see what's fair and just and so forth, and but the thrust of the job basically is that you do need to know the difference between clean and dirty. Um, you need to keep people responsible, particularly on rent. Easier said than done when things are tough. And you need to make sure that the landlords know that they're getting the best possible. And if you do that, it's a lot easier said than done, and particularly when you're doing it in bulk as well. Um, I would say 98% of landlords and tenants are near perfect, but it's the 2% that kept me in a job.
It's one of those things. Like obviously you're dealing with people having to pay like monthly rents or weekly
Mm.
rents, and I can imagine over the years you've had many occasions where you have to deal with people who aren't making the rent and that, and money's an issue, and that stirs up emotions quite greatly.
Mm.
How do you deal with that situation where people can even get quite violent?
Yeah, it's the easiest insult on the planet. When people don't pay, you can. It's very easy to insult people for that matter as well.
Mm.
Um, but you take a different approach. You take a different approach as if it's a shared responsibility. What can I do to help? And um, one of the ladies that I had the privilege of working with, I think she had the best line, and that was, "I'm just trying to stop you from making a mistake." And with tenants particularly, you got to play a bit of a long game with them as well. You got to get to know them, spend time with them, go face to face. I'm much better on face to face. During routine inspections was really valuable as well. You're intruding into someone's home, but if you go in there as a friend and have a conversation just like what we're doing, and then say, "Oh, by the way, I better get this bloody inspection done." It just puts them at ease. Go through quick. Don't put your white glove on.
Mm.
All that sort of thing, and that's where you build the relationship. And then if something does go wrong, well, then you're in credit. And you can ring them up and say, "Hey, Mary, it's a bit awkward, but I've just spotted your rent behind here. I don't know whether you know about that." Oh, yeah, yeah. And they generally do fess up. If they don't, well, then you've got to drill in a bit more.
Mm.
But then you take a shared risk. Well, what can we do about it? I'm here. I'm just trying to keep your record clean. might want to, you might need to go to a bank many years down the track, and they're going to check these records, that sort of thing. But don't shove it down their throat. Just work with them, and if there's tough times, if the relationship is strong enough, they'll tell you, and then you can just work it out, and then you can go to the landlord and say to them, look, these guys are doing it tough, or I'm going to cut them a bit of a break if you want me to do that, and just thread the needle, and just keep things strong. That's the main thing, and that's easier said than done, because as you alluded to, there are people out there that just have the worst intentions. They are just that's just their DNA. I don't get cranky at them. I just feel sorry for those guys. And some of them will take that through the rest of their life. It's quite unfortunate for them. But I think with everything, I mean, I've had some good teachers all my life, and I guess I was just not teaching them a lesson, but just educating them.
I definitely want to come back to the point too where you said a lot of time comes down to what you don't say. In what situations do you mean by that?
Yeah, I never ever allow the discussion to get heated. If if the customer's taking a swing at you, just give them a few free swings. They'll run out of oxygen. If they're cranky, you've got to find out why. I think that when you approach a negotiation, such as being behind on rent, or half wrecking a place, or not mowing, simple as mowing the lawn, you've got to put forward a pathway and a solution, and it's up to me to stay ahead of that as well, and I really enjoy that. I love that art of mediation and negotiation, and leading the witness and all those sorts of things. It's probably the wrong way to put it, but it is an interesting game, and you can't fake genuine. You've got to be involved, and so forth. And the beauty with, I think, property management as well, it's a little bit different from sales, where sales is it's more a very short term thing. A crackerjack agent, particularly in this current market, the relationship might only be a month long, whereas tenants, you've got 12 months minimum sometimes. A lot of the leases that on our personal properties, Linda and I own some properties, we're giving tenants 2 years because I value them. And so you're taking a punt for that period, but you are stuck with each other one way or another. And to me, if you're stuck with each other, well, you better try to get along. And if I've got a couple of hundred of them, well, you can either make your life a nightmare, or you can make your life pleasant. I like the pleasant way, to be honest.
Where do you think you discovered that skill? Was it something you were mentored through, or just years of experience?
Yeah, I think it goes back to seeing the difference. I grew up in Sydney and in Mount Druitt, which, if you Google's got the some of the greatest social problems in Australia, and murder rates and things like that. So I grew up there, and so I saw a lot of wrong. And then at the age of 7, we moved to Tin Can Bay, where I saw a lot of right. No one locked their doors. All the car windows in the street were all down. It was like going back to a different era. And growing up in that small town, I saw very early the difference between right and wrong. And I guess also starting in real estate and watching the core value of the husband and wife that I worked for, they operated the same way. They were just so integrated. They knew everyone. When you know everyone, you know everything. They had the whole checkerboard sorted out, and they had a 90% market share. And I thought, wow, this all just doesn't happen by accident. It happens by behaviour and learnt behaviour, and just being relatable. As an agent, I think sometimes they give off this rub, and it's a bit like my dad, I guess. Used car salesman on Parramatta Road in Sydney. And the whole aim of the game is they just got their eye on your pocket, and they just want the money out of your pocket ASAP. I don't go that way. I think the success flows, and the money is just an outcome. And if you do that, you do make your own luck. And you actually become a much better person as well. And for instance, I was down at Woolworths during the week and I ran into a tenant that I had in a property back in 1990. We worked it out; it was 1992. It's 32 years ago. And here I am, a property manager and a tenant. We still remember each other really well. So, those sort of things do matter. And I challenge, all real estate agents, let alone property managers, to take that approach. You have to play the long game, but fortunately, I've had 40 years on my side, so it's been good.
You could definitely say then that one of the biggest keys to your success is relationships.
Relationships are everything. Yeah, I think when you start putting titles on your name, and I've seen agents out there that they put their name and put LREA after it, which is licensed real estate agent, which I think is a bit of a wank. Um, that's like a self-important sort of thing to do. I
Quite prideful, a prideful action.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And, it's not what I subscribe to. I mean, if they want to cruise around in their BMW and all this sort of thing, that's quite fine. And on the Gold Coast, that's probably appropriate. The people down there, it's a whole different dynamic,
Mm.
which I couldn't ever see myself there. I think that, in life, you've got to choose your lane, you've got to choose your fit, and you've got to choose your destination. And Gladstone's been very, very good to me. I've been fairly good to it, I think, too. But it's been very, very good to me, and it's a wonderful community here. And for a town of 35,000, it's amazing how small it is actually.
Would you say over the years that you've seen a lot of people fall into that trap of trying to look like the best instead of just being the best?
Yeah, I have. I've seen all sorts of things. I mean, back in the 80s, you'd see them cruising around with the roof down, mirror specs, and slicked up, and the sort of thing. And yeah, it's yeah, it just doesn't build trust straight away. They look at, and it does. With a lot of the population, it's a repellent straight away. And I guess the only time I saw it was, I was only a young kid, back in the 80s. And sometimes we'd go down to the Gold Coast, and you'd have those agents just standing on the door trying to get you inside and pack you off to, buy a block of land at Russell Island, and you had land at low tide. Um, so you saw these slick mirror spec sort of dudes, and looked like Don Johnson off Miami Vice. Like they were just they were repulsive. I just thought, wow, this is not me. This is not it. And you saw that real sort of slick attitude, and it still goes on. I mean, you see some of those shows on, I think it's on Prime Video or something. The Lux listing Sydney, and it's a bit amped up, but
Mm.
you see all the slicks there as well, and you're going like, no. Um, and even my wife watches it, and sort of makes comparatives between them and me. And I said, look, I'm the guy that would prefer to get around in a pair of thongs, to
Yep.
be honest. And not in business, but that's the way life should be, I think. And you either get around highly strung and um, you know um, with this catch and kill approach, and I just don't like that at all. And I've stayed away from it. I mean, in my whole career of 40 years, I've only sold for about 3 of those years. Um, to be honest, I was pretty good at it, but I didn't like it. So I stepped away. I could have sold my soul to the devil and stayed at it and probably made triple the money, but um, I don't think I'd be here doing it right now. And it's the same, these days as well, where, I have retreated, I guess, from residential property management, which I do love. It's a bit of a drug, but I just manage commercial property these days, which has a very sensible dynamic to it. It's much more structured. It's the relationships are much, much deeper, um, and and you do have to know your stuff as well. but commercial management is where I hang out. That'll see me out, and who knows, I might still be doing it when I'm 70 because it's actually not a job anymore. It's just something you do. Yeah.
That's great. That's something I feel a lot of people can't admit to, that they just enjoy their job and they'll just do it because for the sake of they love it.
Yeah, well, you're looking at a guy who's only ever had two jobs. That's it.
Yep.
And even that statement's wrong. I've never actually worked a day in my life. It's just what I do. And you know, they say jobs just off broke, which is probably a fair thing. But this is just what you do. It's just part of your DNA. It's part of your groove. It's a large part of my social life. Um, but I don't. It doesn't sit on my shoulders as such anyway. It's just what you do. I've got hundreds of friends, um, but most of those friends are customers, and it's cool. And even the landlords, they're not landlords. They're partners. You know. And as far as the properties, a lot of the landlords that I work for have never ever seen the property ever. So by default, they're my properties. I know these things. So, I'm playing a huge game of Monopoly out there for these guys.
Mm.
Fantastic fun.
It's definitely a great perspective. I feel like if you just shift, well, if everyone just took on board and shifted instead of being a landlord, like you said, that they're a partner, and instead of doing it for the money, you're doing it for your client's best, or just for their best, really.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think if you take the word landlord and tenant out of it, and property for that matter,
Mm.
and just inject the word partners and friends and um, just things you look after, and that's really really important. I've got a huge range of commercial tenants, which we all get along very very well. And I've got hairdressers, I've got top of town big corporate offices, I've got tattooists, I've got a bunch of NDIS tenants. I've got a takeaway shop. Actually, I've got two takeaway shops. I've got a guy who sharpens knives. I've got a lawyer. I've got a baker. All these guys, and that's only just a handful of men. I look after about 60 odd tenants. We know each other really really well, and the other interesting dynamic is I look after 120 storage sheds, which is challenging at the best. You've got sheds out there that are only like $140 a month, and the tenants, it's the least important thing on the planet. But I treat those properties exactly the same as the one that's doing 10 grand a month.
Yep.
That's just what you got to do. And as I said, the money, whether it's your wage or your income or what rent comes in, it's a side issue. It's the principle that's involved. And it's like a storage shed tenant. He gets behind. I said, John, it's only like $25 a week. And I'm going, yeah, well, how about we just pay 3 months and I'll be off your case till next year?
Yep.
Oh yeah, I get that.
I definitely want to, you just reminded me, I definitely want to come back to that quote you said, where if you know everyone, you know everything or anything. That, I guess, because in this lifetime, it's hard to be able to be Mr. Know-it-all. Especially in one, it's hard enough to know one thing at a professional level, let alone three things. So coming back to that, and you just mentioned like you got 60 different tenants, from bakers to lawyers to tattoo artists, like that perspective that if you need something from that profession, they're one call away and they can go all out on you.
Yeah, exactly, and they do. They call for the weirdest things sometimes. I mean, I've got a bunch of property owners out there that I only talk to once a year. They just need an appraisal for their self-managed super fund. It's a property that they'll never sell. It'll be in the family forever. It'll be it'll still be in the same family in the year 2100. So if you take a pragmatic look at that, there's nothing in it for you, but that don't matter. That's where the service comes back in, and those guys, there, it's like over on Blaine Drive. It's sort of multiplied. There's about 6 in a row over there that I do now. They all
Mm.
talk to each other, and a couple of them drop me in a carton of beer, which is good. 6 cartons of beer would be better, but you know, there's you know that there's nothing in your pocket, but that doesn't matter because the town talks. If they're talking to someone, they say, "Oh, I'm sure they would say, oh, you just go see John,"
Yep.
and that's where you make your luck. And you never focus on those sorts of things. And I think when you're intuitive and you take the time to get to know people, 90% of the conversations I have nothing to do with the property or paying the rent or being dictatorial or whatever. It's just getting to know their story, and so you you got to show interest, and you got to be on your game as well. And with each conversation, it just gets a bit deeper and deeper. But it's exactly the same relationship as you have with if you're having a drink with someone at the pub. It's
Mm.
exactly the same thing.
I definitely come to realize that networking is one of life's biggest hacks. Just
Yeah, yeah, it is. I've never thought of it as networking, really. It's just
it's just the way you live.
it's just the way you live, and it's in your DNA or it's not. And I guess I've been very, very fortunate where I've only lived in 3 places. I lived in Western Sydney, and I saw enough of that, and I'd worked that out by the time I was 7. I lived in Tin Can Bay from when I was 7 to 21, so it taught me the mentality of small town. Um, and then yeah, I've lived in Gladstone here. I'm just trying to add that up now. 36 years.
Yep.
Yeah, 36 years I've been here, and so I've spent over half my life here, and it's first class. And I think to live in a town where it's a long way from anywhere, which we are, um, bloody expensive to go to Brisbane,
Mm.
and you apply those things that yeah, you really appreciate it. And every day I drive around here. I was just driving out to come and see you this morning. I thought, wow, stellar day, but wow, look at the town. And it's funny being intuitive in real estate. It's like when I come here, I've come one way to see it, but I'll go back another way, and then I'll duck in here and I'll look at that, and or I'll spot someone and toot or whatever. And it's you don't drive around with your blinkers on. If you drive around wide open,
Mm.
and if you're prepared to go down the shops to buy a loaf of bread and it takes 2 hours, so be it. And that's the interesting groove here. And the town, I think, lost its groove when we went through that LNG boom. There was a whole bunch of whole different people from all over the world, and it was very cosmopolitan there for a little while, and traffic jams and all this sort of thing. And
Mm.
during that LNG boom, we had another 14,000 people in town, and wow, this thing's too big, it's too busy, um, too many weird people, that sort of thing. So it's nice to see the town back on its feet, and it's really thriving at the moment as well, and it's got quite a strong groove. And that's the thing as well, is if you genuinely believe in the town, and the town is first and foremost to me, if you genuinely believe in um, what you're putting to someone as their new home or their new business, or all those sorts of things. It's a great game of matchmaker as well. And you've got to listen to people, because quite often what they're telling you they want is going to be completely different to where they end up.
Mm.
And I really enjoy that. And, it gets really innocent at times as well. You might have, um, the first girlfriend boyfriend thing, and then they just want to go move in together, and they're as nervous as hell, and you're there going, well, geez, I hope this works.
Mm.
Um, and to put them somewhere where even that might work better.
Mm.
Try and keep them away from larger unit blocks where there's all sorts of weird things go on. The simplicity of that, or just just putting someone in a storage shed, for instance, it's just a shed, but it ain't. It's just somewhere that they're going to put their valuable belongings. That's what it's all about. And it's the same with landlords as well. I've had landlords that are right on the edge and saying, oh, we're looking at this, we don't know. And I said, well, let's talk about it. And quite often I'll say, I don't think you should buy that, or I don't think you should take that. Like I'm not afraid to do that. Bang, hit you straight in the pocket as a negative, but that don't matter. And it's the same with, tenants as well. Like, tenants are just treated far too much as just a commodity, just someone to push and shove around and to throw legislation at. And I strongly believe that legislation is the lowest form of ethics. If you're bringing out Section 193, which I don't know what that is, it's not a good conversation.
No.
So, just keep the legislation throw it in the bin, to be honest, and just inject everything in life is just the laws of decency and the university of common sense, and it'll always serve you well. And I've seen some very, very skilled engineers that would get an F- in the game of life,
Yep.
And I don't mean that in a bad way, but take your head out of the phone, take your head out of the book, get out and get in front of real people. It's what it's all about.
It's definitely something you could say in today's age that a lot of people are going away from more and more each day with the development of technology and that. And something that personally I've never been a fan of messaging. I don't even like phone calls. I love just being able to talk people face to face, because you can have a phone call with someone, you can't see their facial expressions, which is a massive tell sign of how they feel in the moment, their body language.
Yeah. It's like I put it this way: it's like trying to read a newspaper in the dark. Okay, and a lot of the listeners will say, "What's a newspaper?" Go figure.
Yeah.
I'd buy the newspaper all the time, and it's nothing like ink on the fingers. It's beautiful. And the day that the Gladstone Observer closed here, I cried. And Andrew and I made sure that we took out a full page ad in that newspaper on that last day to say, "Hey, thanks for the ride."
Yep.
We understand what Murdoch or Packer, I don't know who it was, but someone pulled the rug. And the newspaper was also a thing where you go to the news agent, which means you've got to put one foot in front of the other. You run into people. It's what it's all about. And I'm across tech. Like I'm no dill in that space, but to me, it's only a delivery device. It's not the conversation. And it drives me insane, like, some of our property management teams over the years, and it's not their fault, but you get the young ones and, they're like, oh, this landlord, he's just at my throat and I'm too scared to make this call and I'm going to get my head torn off. And, and they've really worked themselves up and they put these thoughts in their mind. Which the landlord, that's the furthest thing from their mind. This is what they've talked themselves into. And so I go to them and I say, well, when did you last talk to them? Yesterday afternoon. Okay, what time did you ring them? Oh, no. I just sent a text or an email or something. I sent the email at 5:01 because I was out the door at 2:02, And that's insane. It's insane. Sometimes you've got to make the biggest call first. If there is that landlord, that's the case. So then, I would say to that property manager, hey, come with me. Just do it right in the moment before they even got time to think about it. We're heading down the boardroom. Oh, what are we doing? We're ringing him. Oh dear. And they're nervous and sweaty, and you just get on the phone. Hey, g'day, Bill. John from Ray White here. You don't know me, but you know Mary here, of course. Yeah. I just want to have a quick chat to you about such and such. And all I'm doing is just mediating between, that owner and the property manager for that matter. And all of a sudden you start seeing the colour come back into the property. They're white. And you just see the colour, and all I'm trying to do is learn them that pick up the phone. Do it first thing in the morning. A lot of people aren't on their game first thing in the morning. I ain't, and just get stuck into it. And just get it out on the table pronto. It's like in business as well. A lot of customers ring and they go, first question, they just go straight at the jugular. What's your fee? I go, oh, all right. Hey, look, the fee's 10% of the rent collected, but I want to talk about the outcome, not the fee. Oh, 10, no, we're not going with you then. I said, look, we just slow it down a little bit. But you can't disguise what the fact of the matter is. Just have a chat about it as well, and and just let that owner know that, hey, look, I'm your partner. I'm going to be right beside you here, and you know, it's more important on the result, of which I'll get a cut. We'll share in that, and if the bottom line's better, top job. We're both doing well. And some customers don't come with you. That's okay, but that's the difference of not being afraid to say no. And I'm quite happy to accept a no if a relationship's not going too well. And if the primary focus is fee and it's a real capitalist type expectation, well, that's not something that I am that interested in, to be honest. And but you follow up, and you might find out that the decision they made, they went with the they went with the fee decision, but the outcome's probably lower than what they expected. So you just jump back in, and often you'll be told to just go away, and that's quite okay. I'll just put a line through it and say, oh, well, we had a couple of cracks at it, and we'll focus on the people that do want to do business with us as well. And I sometimes take that converse approach. It's uncomfortable, but I decide not to do business with them either. It's just not going to work. That's okay.
Definitely. 2008's when both Andrew and yourself took over ownership of Ray White Gladstone. Obviously, I believe Bruce passed away. I'm not sure what year he passed away. Was it before 2008?
Yeah. He there was the Edgar and Bruce were the brothers, of course, and you've never seen anything so tight in your life as the boys. They were tight. They were yin and yang, and one was what's the word? One was extroverted, one was introverted. Like, it was just amazing. Yeah, it was just amazing.
Great. What's the word? Complementary partners.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just hand in glove, to be honest. And they both take bullets for each other. Very tightly integrated. It was more, I never worked a day for them. We always talked as if we worked with it. They've made me feel like I was the third owner of the business.
Wow.
They wanted nothing to do with property management, and, they just said, this is yours. And if you need bailing out, or, if you need a bit of coin just to fix an error or whatever, just let us know. It's always there. And there was never any guilt on my part. They're just bumps on the road. So that was the relationship. And then after, close on 20 years, Bruce got diagnosed with a brain tumour in late April 2007. Passed away about 6 months later. Really hurt. And, I knew the business was going to be all right, but I didn't know what the future direction of the business was going to be. And it was never on my mind, but Edgar and Andrew approached me. Obviously, they were in Brisbane and came up with something. I don't know what happened, but they said, we think you should buy in, John. I'm going, wow. First of all, I thought, wow, that's not me. I'm just Wally the worker. So it took a bit to wrap my head around it. Then came fear. And then I woke up one morning and thought, wow, what a compliment. This would be a privilege. This would be an absolute privilege. So, yeah, absolutely. And then this immense relief. I thought, wow, I've got the rest of my life mapped out now.
Yep.
And so then it came about 1st of March 2008. I thought it'd be a monumental day. It's no different. It's just the same day. The staff I treated the same. The staff treated me the same. I thought that was important. And I've always had a very inclusive approach. And I approached, ownership of the business, and I'm still awkward with that sort of idea. But what Edgar and Bruce taught me in terms of the way they operated community inside and outside the office, because they had a different community inside the office. You can't escape these people. You're stuck with them most of your life. Um, it was important that I continued to do things the way that I grew up to love. And that's what kept me there for 20 years. And I thought, well, if I treat these guys the same, I might have them for a decade. And we've had tremendous staff over the years. I've had the privilege of working with 400 people through Ray White. You know, um, if you want to look at it as the game of Survivor, I probably won. Salt Survivor. Um, but it's really, really important that they come along with the ride. They understand it. And I blatantly told them, hey, you're looking after 200 properties. It stresses me out to think that, we've got 1,100 managements here. I don't need that weight on my shoulders. They're yours. I don't want them. Like they're yours. I'm not putting that as a weight on your shoulders, but if it's a shared arrangement, it's a much better arrangement. And they've got some skin in the game, and all sorts of weird and wonderful things happen, particularly with the new kids on the block. And especially the new generation. You've got to teach them to get their face out of the phone and try stay off Facebook all day when you're working and all this sort of thing. And just try be relevant and always be available and mentor them. And the joy that I've had is that I didn't think that Edgar and Bruce ever taught me, but they were the greatest teachers I've ever had. Never felt like being taught. It's awesome. And if you can do the same in a mentor type way with the guys and not shove things down their throat and chastise them, and if they make an error, it's just an exercise in learning. It's a much better dynamic, and they respond to that really well. And the outcome is that they get very heavily invested with what they do, and particularly real estate. If you're fake, you might not even see out your probation period. Yeah.
You're someone who's been both mentored and mentored others. What would you say? What would you say would be, or how do you approach someone to be mentored, and how do you take the approach of mentoring others when they ask you for advice?
Yeah, I think being mentored, I've actually never felt being mentored, to be honest. It's just growth. It'd be like saying that I mentor my wife, and she does mentor me, but you know, but it needs to be natural. I mean, the way you are at home is if you inject that in the way that you go about life and work and that sort of thing, and you're not trying to learn someone. That's what it's all about. And it even comes down to when you're just interviewing people. I hate the word interview. I freak them out completely. They're there expecting to talk about the job and the mechanics and the clunk and grind and the gears and blah blah blah. And I don't mention a damn thing about it. I just don't. We just bust it down. Who are you? What's your story? And then I then work out, well, will that person slot in with 15 others? And that's more important to me. One of the leading property managers at Ray White right now, I chose her over someone with 15 years experience. And you just see that spark, you see that desire, you see the want, and bright as a button, all those sorts of things. That to me is a better proposition to put into the team than a know-it-all. And unfortunately, the other lady was just a know-it-all. It was just full of fig jam. She made me crawl. Would have been marvellous at the job, but it would have been a cat amongst the pigeons too. And so you take that. It's not a responsibility. It's you just take that choice with your heart. And again, if you make that decision with your heart, in particular if you're in tune and you take the time, and I generally am very generous with my time because I'm intuitive. And also in the interview space as well. Sometimes if it's going really well, we might be there for 2 hours and you look at your clock and go, geez, this has been fun. They go away and they're fever pitch. Geez, I really want this. I really want it. And, that's it. If you want it, you got it. It's as simple as that. You make your own luck. And, there's those type of dynamics of decency just turn up everywhere in this role. I mean, when things go really bad, you can end up in the Gladstone courthouse with a tenant next to you, and I'm there and I'm fully equipped. I know my stuff. I could theoretically just bury the opponent. You could, but you don't because you're on show, and and you're there to solve something. And quite often, even I know I'm going off track a bit here, but in the courthouse, often, and I've probably done 200 QCAT claims. We've had success with the majority, and I might just pull it all up and I say, Your Honour, look, if you don't mind, would you mind? We just put this into recess. I think that we can come back with a result here, but we just might need to step outside. I don't know these guys, but they look pretty decent to me, and I think we can. And so you go out and, hey guys, I hope you didn't mind me doing that, but I think we're nearly there. What do you reckon? I'll see how close I can come. Back forward, back forward, back forward. You got to eat a bit. The landlord knows that you'll eat a bit. And then you go, hey, that's awesome. Go back in. All right, what's the situation, Mr. Fieldus? And I said, well, Your Honour, we do have a compromise here. I'll put it forward. This is what it is. You look at the tenants. How do you feel about that, Mary? Nod. Yep. They just want out. And then you get congratulated. Congratulations, this is awesome. And that's the reputation you build even up in the courthouse. And then go outside and have a chat with them on the steps for half an hour. Oh yeah, what's next? And sorry about this. And I know you got to pay $1,500, but look, we can do it over a couple of months. Don't let me down. And it's all solved because the thing's valued. They've learned a lesson. I've had a bit of fun. And you walk out there proud. And you're only as good as the last job you ever do. And so that's real estate at its worst. If you end up in QCAT, it's sometimes people won't listen to you. They just need to feel a bit more important. They need the cop on the beat, maybe. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yep. I like that quote too. You're only as good as your, excuse me, last job.
That's right.
That's definitely great. Like everyone can go around saying, yeah, I did this and did that, but it's like, what did you do last? And how did you approach that?
Yeah. Well, look, what's done is done, but what's next is the most important thing, and you've just got to have good core value. If you've got good core value, you can look yourself in the mirror and go, yeah, I'm a good guy.
Yep.
Yeah. And sometimes I get told that, but it's a nice compliment. But, at the end of the day, it just means that, hey, we got it right, both of us. Yeah.
So over the years, 2008, you took over Ray White Gladstone with Andrew.
Yeah.
You used both at the same time.
Yeah.
When was it that you took a step back from the business? I think that was more recent years, was it?
Yeah. It was a really emotional time, actually. But in 2022, I'm going to give a few things away here, but, I turned 55. And we'd been, and Linda and I are just avid travellers. Like we go overseas every 3 or 4 months. We're just mad. Like we've just come back from Korea. We've done Thailand. We're in Sri Lanka next month. Things like that. And they're the things that just make me tick. And it's all people as well. I just love going and being like some guy on a desert island in the middle of Seoul or something. It's crazy stuff. So we got jammed, obviously, with COVID. Not as bad as the cities or south of the border. And I was climbing the wall. I needed to get out of the country and just get on with that dynamic again. And it was also a good place just to sort of go and decompress and all that sort of thing. So my wife and I went to Fiji for 2 weeks. And the first week was awesome. Went and did all the touristy things, and then I just got hopelessly bored just got really bored, and I'm not going to sit around the pool and just consume Fiji lager all day. It just was a good, might have been fun, but that's not my thing. So I did two things that week. I went down to Europe Car and I hired a car. We drove around Fiji, and you think the Bruce Highway's bad. Like, the Bruce Highway looks like an expressway compared to Fiji. So we're driving around, and as we're driving around, I got chatting with Linda, and the topic sort of came around to, what do we want the next chapter of our life looking like, and that sort of thing. And when you get to the stage of life, you freak out when you turn 40 and 50, and I've got 60 coming up shortly. But yeah, I do it in 5-year increments where I just check in with myself. And so I was 55, and I said to Linda, what do we want it to look like? And the conversation came around to, from her, John, I want to see more of you. I need more focus from you. This thing's like a drug. And she was exactly right. And I want you to be more present. I want you to try and get home before 8 o'clock at night, all sorts of things. And so, I was just throwing so much at the business that, and I'm the worst delegator on the planet. Look, let's face it, I am just, if you want the book on crap delegation, I'll write one for you. And so, yeah, the conversation come around that, I've got to ease out of being on the floor of the business. That was just something that I owed to Linda. I felt she'd put up with this for such a long time. It was almost like the second wife in a way. And so, yeah, we had these honest discussions. It was very emotional. She didn't think I could do it. And so for the first time in my life, I took a pretty gutless approach. I sent Andrew and our business coach an email because I just couldn't articulate it. And I thought, such an emotional thing that I had to just get it all out. And so I wrote him an email about what was behind it. Was very honest about personal things. And so, the decision was hatched. Pushed the button. It was like pushing the button on Hiroshima. And I thought, well, there's no going back now. I played my hand. And so, Andrew was equally emotional, a bit shocked, I think. So it took us quite a lot of months just to work it out personally. It was a bit of a slow burn. We worked it all through. And to cut a long story short, I left the office in the last week of October in 2022. I only stood up and told that I wanted to tell my story, so we held a car park meeting with all the team, and I stood up and told them, and it went down like a bomb, and it was hard. And I departed the office. Andrew bought my 50% share out, but what was really important was that the dream still got to continue. So I now just work. I'm self-employed. I'm the boss and the employee of me, and I contract to Ray White as the commercial property manager, the leasing agent. I freelance in sales as well. And it's been good. It's been a fair old adjustment. I mean, I've lost most of my social life, through not being in that office, and that was a bit of a detox. It's a hell of a detox, and you've got to be really careful about your timing. And yeah, I did it for a lot of reasons, but mainly it was just personal reasons, and a couple of little health scares and things like that. But I didn't want to be. I think part of the decision, because I'm a tragic NRL fan, I just didn't want to be the player that stayed a season too long. And it's sad when you see that. I just didn't want to be that guy. You're better off to go out on top. And I've watched it through 40 players all over the years. There's been the guys that went a season too long, and there's the guys that probably went even what if the fans think it's a season too early, you probably got it pretty right.
Yep.
And that was the feedback to me was, you're too young. You're only 50. How old are you? 50. Wow, all this sort of stuff. But, you just got to choose your time and and follow your heart as well. My head was telling me this is dumb. This is the silliest thing ever, and you're throwing it all away. And you built such a big thing, and you should reap what you sow and all that sort of thing. But yeah, it was hard, and it still is hard. 2 years later, I'm just about to chalk up 2 years being away from all that. I mean, it's still hard because you've got to find different things to replace that social aspect. Um, and I do that through spending not so much time with the staff and the team members, but more time with my customers. And I can go and see them face to face a lot more often, and I'm doing a lot of that now. So those relationships, they were pretty strong, but they're ironclad now, absolutely ironclad. And when you invest in it, yeah, I'm reaping what I've sowed big time, and that commercial side of the business has just gone to a whole different level in terms of even what it produces in outcome. I've never been a money guy, but it's working well. Um, all the customers are happy. Andrew sends me through the odd customer survey as well, and it's nice to see 10 out of 10. It's a good day when you get those things.
It's definitely a great little reward anyway, just to know you are doing a good job and people do appreciate your service.
Yeah, 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 and you've got to be good to yourself too. Like, I mean, I need something to keep the brain going, and I need something to do, and they're all those wants and needs, and you know, I mean, Linda wanted to see a lot more of me, but I think 100% of me had sent her around the bend. So it's still shared. I mean, she's got her social circle, and we're still very we're still very active in that side of things, but we do it in vastly different ways. And the biggest challenge is working from home and setting those rules. I don't like saying rules, but that's it's an unwritten rule of what we do. And when you're on the park, you're on the park. That's it.
Where did you get the travel bug from? Have you always had it or?
Um, I didn't go overseas till I was 30, and then I remember the first time landing in New Zealand, and wow, check this out. Like, we've really made it now. We're descending into Auckland. Um, and we spent 3 weeks over there. It was a high risk game. We took Linda's parents as well. So here's four of us in a car for 3 weeks. High risk. Um, really high risk. Um, and so yeah, just getting around and meeting different people and seeing different things, and just the excitement that we had in that. It was just, yeah, it was just something awesome, and it was so far removed from what I do. Um, and so, yeah, for the first few years, we went to New Zealand once or twice a year. Took our girls. Um, to me, to the family, it demonstrated the best of me as well. The four of us in the car was a pretty weird crew, but we really value that. And my daughters are now 22 and 27. I'm just so glad I went and did that, because otherwise all they would have known is this guy that just turns up from Ray White sometimes.
Mm.
Um, so we did that a bit, and then we went to Japan for the first time in 2007, I think it was, and that was a Ray White conference up there. So I got to share a bit of time with Andrew in Japan with Ray White. It was a 4-day conference. Do what you do. We went for 16 days. Linda and I took the first shift with the girls, and we were like Crocodile Dundee. We were just right out of water in this weird big city, and just navigating our way around. Didn't know the language. The girls hated the food. You name it. It was hard, but we loved it. And then from an emotional level, myself and the two daughters went to Hiroshima for the first time, and that's where I thought, wow, you can really sense some things here, which we all did in all different ways. So yeah, that's that first trip to Japan. We've been to Japan 8 times since. It's like our colouring in book. We just do little bits as we go. We stay out of the cities, which I can't stand. And then yeah, Linda and I have mentioned all over the world. We've been to Chile and Machu Picchu. We've spent 3 weeks in Mexico. We tried Hawaii, which wasn't my groove, too big. Um, we've been through Europe. We've South Africa. We've been through Dubai, a couple of weeks in Switzerland, London. So, and it's fantastic. And even this morning, it come up in my memories this morning. This time 7 years ago, we're in Zermatt in Switzerland, and also 5 years ago, we were in Athens. I said to Linda, I said, that's like the A to Z of travel. That's awesome. So, that travel is fantastic. And, sometimes we're freelance. So it's just Linda and me versus the world. We did that in Seoul, and we did it in Busan in Korea, and just come back. And I mean, that was 6 weeks ago. We come back from there. I'm still buzzing from that, and we're setting up to go to Sri Lanka, which is a package tour. So we're on a package tour with 20 Queenslanders in a bus, which is a bit of a worry.
Yep.
But I'm really looking forward to that. I think Sri Lanka will be interesting. But what's buzzing me is the 20 people. It's going to be awesome. It's just going to be like this mobile Ray White office in a way, and it's just going to be a heap of fun and all that sort of thing. Linda's pretty scared about we're going out on the game park chasing elephants and leopards and things, and she's got pictures of us being in the back of a ute. And I said, it's nothing like that, So there's just all these interesting dynamics that we do with travel, and I've always said all my life that you've got to have targets in front of you. I'm a real short term target guy. I don't really care where we are in 12 months or 2 years or 5 years. I've got no plan on that. All I'm worried about is the next place we're going, because I know that we're going to be good. And so, I always keep something in front of me. So at the moment, we've got Sri Lanka. It's weird how it's come about. We're in New Zealand twice in February. The second time we're going with my daughter and her boyfriend, and he's in a triathlon over there. So, we can mix the family and the travel in amongst each other. I'm dying for the day that, my two daughters and their boyfriends and the six of us head off somewhere. They've got ideas of a cruise ship. I've got something a bit more extravagant in mind, but,
Yep.
yeah, I don't think it's going to be the Love Boat. But, at the end of the day, they're the sort of things. And so, they're almost like your life rewards in a way. You've got something, you've got no idea what to expect, and most of the time it comes off stellar. Yeah, but I just love that travel proposition, and a lot of people say see Australia first, and I go, look, see Australia when you're old. It's much more fun when you're old because you can get out there with your 30-foot caravan on the back and do 70k up the Bruce Highway with 4 kilometres of traffic behind you. That's my idea of fun when I'm old.
Just
It's payback.
I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
How many countries have you done now then?
Sorry?
How many countries have you ticked off now?
We've ticked off 54 so
Wow.
far. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. So
You're 25% there for the whole world, I believe.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I think we might give Libya a miss.
Libya, yep.
But we've sort of brushed South Africa, and it's quite dangerous. But we spent a week in Cape Town. It's probably the most beautiful place I've ever seen. Very amazing. We did 3 weeks in Mexico. I ended up first night in Mexico with a kidney. I ended up in the hospital with an operation. First night in Mexico, kidney stone operation.
Oh shit.
Yeah. But we're back out on the beat 2 days later.
Yep.
Into it, and got that nonsense out of the way quickly. But we spent 3 weeks in Mexico. Safest country I've ever been to.
Wow.
Absolutely safe. Everything you hear is just BS. It's safe. It's wonderful. The people are amazing.
The food.
You travel an hour and it's like going to a different country. It's unbelievable. Going to Mexico, and I know it gets a bad rap from Trump and all that sort of thing. Maybe the wall is to keep the Americans out.
I think it's almost just movies too. Every American movie's got something to do with Mexicans, and obviously, the drugs and all that reputation they get around themselves, which is very unfortunate for them because they do get that bad rap, and then you have people like yourself who go there and just the experience. But I guess it's an unknown treasure anyway.
Yeah, same thing happened strangely with all my family. I mean, I grew up in Western Sydney, and we'd moved to Queensland, and so we'd go down to visit them for Christmas, and we were like the joke, Oh, you're up there, go back to Queensland, wind the clock back an hour and 20 years, the banana benders and hillbillies, and
Oh, so what Queensland is referred to?
totally. That's what Sydney siders thought of Queensland.
Far out.
Yeah, Joby Elkie Peterson is like Kim Jong Un, and all this sort of stuff. It was just amazing, even what my family in Sydney thought of us as Queenslanders, and yeah, we were a little bit that way as well. We probably looked a bit weird when we went over the shops in Seven L's in Sydney and walked into the shop in bare feet, which
Mm.
we did, because that's what you did in Tin Can growing up.
Yep.
So yeah, we had to cityfy ourselves and put something on your feet. But that's the same type of dynamic, and I think Australia's become much more blended these days, I guess.
Mm.
But yeah, I think that there's just so many different places, and even just travelling around Europe, you can travel half an hour and you're in
Oh yeah.
something completely different, something completely different.
Yep.
And we spent 2 weeks in Switzerland, where I become just the world's greatest photographer taking ordinary photos. You know,
It's beautiful there.
yeah,
I'm keen to go there.
yeah, yeah. It is. It's an amazing place, and yeah. I mean, Linda and I spent 2 weeks there. I'm a train fan, so we spent 2 weeks on trains. She forgave that, and yeah, we travelled all around, um, and it was a funny tour where it was done through Webjet, and you bought a package, and basically you bought all the train trips, and they gave you vouchers for 14 nights accommodation. And there was about 50 other people that did the same thing, so they're all on the same train, but we're staying in different accoms. So there was sort of this bumping into each other all the
Mm.
time, but not actually stuck together on a bus for 2 weeks. And yeah, it was a crazy dynamic, and we've made some really good friends even just out of that. Just regathering, and but that was a nice mix where we sort of regathered on the train. We're all in the same carriage. They must have just bulk booked it, and but we freelanced as well. It was a really awesome blend. But yeah, I think if there's one thing that anyone should do in this lifetime is just go and spend 2 weeks in Switzerland.
Mm.
It's absolutely visually spectacular. Um, it's like winding back 100 years, and just by default, yeah, it's very laid back, cruisy, and yeah, reminds me of some places that I grew up. Some places look like Tin Can Bay, just a lot more mountainous and fresh water, really. Yeah,
It's definitely a lot more convenient to travel to now because the world's adapting a lot more to English as well.
yeah,
I remember going to Bali. I remember when my mate and I were hiring a moped. Old mate could speak English fluently as most Australians, and we asked him how he learned the language, and he said from music, which is just unbelievable.
yeah,
Um, so the world's definitely getting a grasp. Even when I went to Czech Republic, pretty much everyone under 40 could speak English.
yeah. We found that in less so in Japan, but anyone probably under 30 is quite fluent.
Mm.
Um, American accent, it's just where they pick it up from.
Right.
I believe it. I haven't been there, but I think Philippines has got some of the greatest American accents on the planet, from what
Wow.
I've heard. But Japan, and a lot of people say, you keep going to Japan, isn't that hard? And I says, no, it's easy. Like, if you grew up with a colouring in book and join the dots, you can do Japan, and it's just so simple. Japan, we just use the bullet train system. We get a JR pass, which is the greatest bargain. That, like, if you want a travel hack, that JR pass in Japan is the greatest bargain on the planet. $500 for a fortnight, unlimited travel, on and off whenever you want.
Wow.
Don't have to book. Um, if you turn up at the railway station 10 minutes before, you'll get a seat, because all the Japs turn up at 5 minutes before.
Yep.
And it's so simple. And then you get out at a destination such as Hiroshima or Nagasaki or Kagoshima, or Hakata, or up in Sapporo, and there's a tourist information centre, and the Japanese section's about might be 50 metres wide. The English section they make nice and compact. It's about 2 metres wide. And I just go there and I'm very visual and I go, yep, I like that, I like that, I like that, I like that. Bang, 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 grab it all. We're settling into the room and going, yeah, we're doing that, we're doing that. This is easy. You'd never read this in the book. And then you turn over and it says you get, the train at 13 past 10, connect with this bus and it's like join the dots. And we've done some amazing day expeditions just doing that. Things you would never envisage going to. We've been to a Wisteria Park, which probably on the surface it's like a big botanic gardens, and you can spend the whole day there. And I'm going yawn. My wife loves it, but I got there and I thought, wow, this is off the scale. This is so really well done, and we've done a lot of that. So I've learned a lot of my wife's interests through just falling into those things. Um, and then again, you go see the historic sites. You go and stand where the atomic bomb went off in Nagasaki, and it's very somber. And you can just stand there on your own and look up and go, well, that's where it happened. And then go to the museum. And yeah, it's amazing. Down at Kagoshima volcano, and that's Japan. And I think if anyone's going to start with a second country, I think everyone's been to Bali and New Zealand, and that's fine. I've done those as well. But the third country that you should ever do, if you've only ever done those two, is just go straight up to Japan. There's no jet lag. We catch the plane out of the Gold Coast at 10:30. You're in Tokyo for dinner, and have a camp, get out on it, and get into it. And we've as I've said, we've done 9 trips up there, and yeah, we're just sort of colouring it in as we go. And we just love Japan. We can't speak highly enough. We don't ski, which is what most people go there to do. But yeah, just get amongst it, and don't be afraid. And anyone under 30 is fluent in English, but if you like a challenge, yeah, try to talk to someone over 45. Super fun because you're talking with your fingers and phonetics and reading
Yes.
faces and thumbs up and all this sort of thing. And I don't know if those people even know what thumbs up is. But yeah, it's good fun. I remember trying to buy train tickets off a guy up at the Mount Fuji station, and this guy would have been 75. I'm trying to buy a train ticket and trying to explain where we're going to, and we both agreed to give up, and he just gave us a ticket. And I thought, well, I hope that one's right, and stuff like that is really good fun, really, really good fun. And, really amazing things like we've stood at the A-Dome in Hiroshima, which I go to every time. I think it's just an amazing place to go where the first atomic bomb went off. And that's the worst thing that's ever happened on the planet, I think, in our lifetime. And just to stand there and this building stood up, it's just the iron frame. And I got talking with a guy there who he was well in his 80s and was perfect on English. And I thought, well, that alone deserves, we need to talk. And it was a guy that we got talking, and I found out that he was on the other side of the river because where the A-Dome is a river. And he said that's where I was living when the bomb went off. I was down in the basement when it went off, and I got stuck and everything, and all my family, and he was in the basement. And about 3 days later, he came up and just looked like what Florida looks like at the minute, And everything was gone. His family, everything was vaporised, except the building on the other end, the building that he was stood outside. And so he's probably the most incredible guy I've ever talked to in my life. We spoke for 2 hours. He was very generous with his time, and Linda could see that I was really involved. She didn't sort of come in and it was just that thing. And it was such an amazing thing. And just before we left, I said, what are you doing here? And he said, I'm just here for peace. And I thought, wow, this guy is, he told such a story, and it was full of fear and, loss and you name it. But, he's forged on. He's lived where even all the people that did live have died years ago because of that. And yeah, he's an amazing human being. This is the sort of guy that you probably should put in front of the world leaders, because that's it was an amazing guy I've met. That's the most amazing guy I've ever met, and I thought, wow, I'm just so privileged to get that opportunity. We went back there last year and he wasn't there, so maybe his time is up, but I hope not. Yeah.
Would you say that the Western mainstream, like Western world mainstream media kind of like manipulates how we think about what parts of Asia and even like definitely Africa, but even parts of Europe, what they actually look like to what they are?
Yeah, yeah. I think growing up as a kid, it was all over TV. It was everywhere. I'm not going to use the words that were used back then, but they were a joke. The Chinese were a joke.
Mm.
Um, poking fun of anyone from Asia, and um, you know, stupid kids at school pulling their eyes, and all those really sad things when you look back on it. All fairly normal, and then even in Australia, although it was done with a lot of love, you had all the wogs, and you had comedy groups and all sorts of things, and Kingswood Country on the TV, and all sorts of things. And I think everything's matured a hell of a lot. Where you know, yeah, the world can't be a joke. It just can't be. And there's some pretty serious things that are going on around the place, which I think all of us by default just have to be ignorant of it. We can't solve those things. I think it's just a waste of time. Those guys have got to sort it out themselves, and you know, it's hard to watch. But I consider that we live on the best place on the planet right here. I've travelled all the world, and I keep coming back here, and I go, how fortunate we are. Not to just live in Australia or Queensland, but Gladstone. And I just feel very, very fortunate. And even when we come back from some of these places, and there's a lot of people there that are just on the complete bone of their bum. It's just a day to day battle just to live. And we talk about, I was talking a minute ago about, long term goals. I feel guilty because I don't have a 10-year plan. I've only got a 3-month plan. These guys have got like a tomorrow plan. And, and you see these guys, and particularly the workers out there, they work damn hard 365 days a year. There's not a break. There's no break. There's no plan. We go till we drop. And you look at that dynamic and you're going, that's the way they're wired. That's all they know. And I'm just glad that's not me. So yeah, it's a different world out there, that's for sure. And the majority of the world is that way. There's very, very little that I've seen anywhere. Maybe New Zealand, strangely parts of Bali, where it's feels about as normal as what we've got here, but most of it ain't.
Mm.
And I've never been to America. It's not really on my radar. I think that a country where everyone's carrying guns and things, I just think that that's just a different thing. I spent a week in New York with Andrew, but that was that was like being in some sort of prison. It's crazy. But yeah, so I think we've just got to take stock sometimes of how fortunate we are, and don't sweat the small stuff. Really, yeah.
From even an Australian perspective, what would you say are the key benefits or highs about Gladstone that you love so much?
Yeah, I think that it's independent. It's the town writes its own book. It runs its own groove. Um, and I think it's an amazing place where it's small. It's fairly captured. Um, 8 minutes and you're anywhere.
Mm.
And it's crazy too. I remember we used to live in Clinton out near the airport, and I used to groan because we'd have to drive into the city. I had to drive in the city each morning. It took me 20 minutes because of the Kinkora roundabout at the time.
I was going to say that going
Oh,
back, I remember I was only a young whippersnapper when the LNG boom was on, but I
yeah,
remember going to training and um, or coming home from training, like swimming training, and
yeah,
the traffic be back at KFC because of the King Core roundabout, and you
yeah,
couldn't go Glen Line because that was the exact same.
yeah,
It was
yeah.
just ridiculous.
And it was just crazy. It was like you
Yeah.
just got there and you go, right, close your eyes and hit the throttle. Everyone else, this is like I'm in the downtown Phuket. This is the way you drive in Phuket. Just close your eyes and hit the throttle. And that was the Kinkerra roundabout.
Yep.
And
That was a mission.
it worked. I think I prefer the lights.
Yeah.
But and I think also the town here is very sophisticated as well. You know, it's got a really good backbone here. A lot of people in high vis, you know, very high caliber work. You know, a lot of you've got guys out there working on sodium cyanide and, as we saw the other week, ammonium and all sorts of things. And you know, it's an affluent town. You know, like there's you can really get ahead here. And you know, if I bring that back full circle to real estate, I saw that with a lot of young people as well. That, you know, they were probably living out at Ipswich or Caboolture doing, you know, the hour commute on the train into the city, and you know, the city suck and dry all your money and all this sort of thing. And you know, out in suburbia, probably not in a great suburb, maybe, I don't know. Just trying to get ahead and trying to battle, and you hear about all this cost of living, and you'd see these, you know, younger ones come to Gladstone, and you know, you can live in a really, really nice home here for 10 grand a year. You know, don't worry about 500 a week. It's 10 grand a year. And, you know, the husband, you know, if he gets lucky, but, you know, in a short space of time, 100 grand a year is easy. It's there. And it's the same with, you know, for ladies here as well. You know, you're just not restricted to just retail or office. You know, there's ladies out there that do everything. I see ladies working on the port. I see them driving trucks, and you know, so they can be on equal type money. So I mean, in a short space of time, you know, if you're young and you come to Gladstone, and if you're switched on and you want to put some effort into it, yeah, you can make close to 200K a year. You're spending 10% on your rental property. Tuck away a bit of coin, you can buy a house within a couple of years. You can be on your feet, you know, and you can probably afford to have kids in your late 20s or 30 or whatever you want to do. And life's good, you know, and that's been my journey as well, you know. I mean, you know, Linda and I bought our first place here for 100 grand. That was a lot of money at the time, but still cheaper than rent. And that's the proposition. But, you know, where people find it hard to get ahead at the moment is just getting that nest egg together. And I don't think that you can do that so well in the city. I think when you're paying, you know, $1 million for something that you're going to get for half price here, you know, like this is great. I think it's the same problem though in Brisbane to how they see Gladstone or the regions, and you know, particularly you know, Mount Isa or out in the coalfields. They see it as hillbilly country. And it's the same thing as what Sydney used to see as a kid of Tin Can Bay, which was a little bit hillbilly actually. But you know, it was, but it was awesome. You know, like a small town in the 70s. That was the dynamic. But things are much more connected. But I think that that's the opportunity with Gladstone here in terms of just life and work, and you know, and you know, you're not going to be flogging yourself to death. And you know, there's a lot of people out there that work 12-hour shifts, and so they just work 4 days a week. And you know, there's a whole bunch of things. You know, I think shift work's. I've never done shift work, but I see a lot of people love it because it gives them a lot of downtime and family time, and you know, you can nick off to Agnes Water for the day or whatever. So yeah, I think you know, that's what it's all about. And you know, I think you know, your home's your castle, and you know, and for me too, for that matter, when I'm not traveling, you know, I've got a holiday at home, I'm stuck with that. But you know, it's really, really important to get yourself set. And if you come here while you're young, you can do that. And it's a damn good place to bring your kids up as well. You know, I don't know what my life would be like if I had grown up in Sydney. I think it'd be wildly different to, you know, what we enjoy here today. And that's really, really important. And sometimes it's just that crossroad you come to, you know, just taking that next step. And I can't think of anything worse than fly in, fly out, where you're separated, and you know, You know, I know during the down, you know, when the boom busted here in Gladstone, there was a lot of guys here that had to go work in WA, and so they'd go work 3 weeks in WA and come home for a week. And to me, that's like going away with the army.
Mm.
You know, um, really busts up and messes up the family unit. And you know, even when I was doing long hours in real estate, at least I was sleeping in my own bed every night, and you know that sort of thing. So you know, I think you know the lesson in that is just take a leap of faith. Just take a leap of faith sometimes, and don't follow the crowd. Yeah.
Yep, definitely. I guess what would be some words of wisdom would you give to like the younger generation or yourself today, your 21-year-old self that moved up to Gladstone? What would you tell them?
Yeah, go with your gut. Um, Work out what you want to do. Don't work out what you want to do with your life in grade 12.
Hmm.
Um,
It's something that I feel like obviously I was only graduated 4 years ago, so I remember like it was almost like what you're going to do when you leave school, whether it's
mm,
uni or apprenticeship, like that's your life,
yeah,
and it couldn't be more far than the truth. And I think a lot more people are waking up to that, but that's how it feels like. Like it's just getting jammed in the throat. Like
yeah,
you got to decide your life, the rest of your 60, 70, 80 plus years of
yeah.
life in
You
that
got to you
moment.
got to work out what your core interests are, what's going to make you tick, what's going to
Mm.
give you the most value. Um, you know, I've had friends at high school that you know they were just fixated on you know being doctors and professionals and things, and they ended up 4 years later working back on the pineapple farm at the back of Gympie. You know,
Mm.
happy as Larry. Um, all those sorts of things. You know, and it's quite funny too. It's just my funny sense of humour where you know I worked with two guys at school and they went and became lawyers. And I thought, well, these guys are just getting the nerds back, you know, because we gave them hell at school. So you know, they went and became lawyers, and you know that was good. Um, but yeah, you just got to work out what makes you tick. You know, if you're a social sort of a person, well then you know find something like that. You know, go chase. Um, you know, legal's fine, or a career or whatever. If you're a bit introverted, well then go chase accountancy. If you're great with your hands, leave school at grade 10 and just go get them dirty. You know, what's the point? Um, you know, you don't need to get to the age of 18 or 19 and be the smartest guy in the dole here. You know, and you know that's it. You know, so just find out. You know, just go and talk to someone about it and just find out what makes you tick, what you want to do. Some people are good with their hands. Some people are good with their hearts. You know, allied health, aged care, all that sort of thing. Go for gold. You'll get a lot of value there. But if you like people, I'm completely biased. Go chase real estate. Um, it's awesome. And the thing I like about real estate is that you know, going back to that proposition, the things that interested me was actually being a lawyer or an accountant or you know in something in social services. And I think real estate, I got very lucky. I hit the bullseye because it's all three, and it's all come together, and you got all sorts of dynamics in there. And you know, at times you know you got to know your stuff and all that sort of thing. Um, but if you're introverted and scared silly, I probably wouldn't try it. You know, you're probably better off to do something that's more in your lane. So, you know, and I don't think it's too early to start having those conversations with yourself. I think that by the time you're 15, you should know what you want to do. Um, you know, I had a really good mate at school who now works in Gladstone actually, and I hadn't seen him for 40 years. He works with my daughter, and I think he left school when he was about grade 9 or 10 and just went fishing. You know, he just went fishing. That's what the vast majority in Tincan Bay did. They couldn't wait till they turned 15, and some of them faked 15 and went fishing. And you know, he now drives the tugboats out here on the harbour, pushing around $100 million ships.
Mm.
You know, and I've been out there with him. I've had a drive of the tug. It's a ripper job, and just just loves it. And I thought, wow, this is a cool gig, but he's earned that as well. He's come from fishing and where he's had to go through a master's and all sorts of things. And so you could get very, you could get very short-sighted with what he's achieved. But, I mean, he wasn't scholastic by any stretch of the imagination, but, he's probably earning more money than me. But it doesn't matter because you can just see he loves what he does and the responsibility. And, we're out there on a good day, but, he's out there pulling LNG ships up and down the harbour, and it might be blowing 40 knots and pouring rain and, fog in the middle of winter or something. And, that's where you really got to know your stuff. And, yeah, I'm so proud of this guy. So proud, and my daughter works with him, and the the admiration they have for each other for different reasons is awesome too. They're two totally different people, but they've still got that social skill as well. And both my daughters are in social jobs, and they integrate with hundreds of people. Um, my youngest daughter, she schedules the tugboats. She's only 22. It's a really important job what she does, and she gets over there and she tells all the guys what to do, which is awesome. I'm really proud of her for that. And you know, she would not have had that opportunity or even sought that out in a big city. And it was who she got to know, and she just navigated away and squirreled away, and no formal training, and just pursued it. And because she has proved herself that she's local, she's not going nowhere, those employers have looked at her and thought, well, she's this kid plays for keeps. That's why, and that's why she probably got it.
Mm.
And that's so that just reverberates back to my own family. It's the same with my wife as well. She's just worked in little family businesses. Very social. Shoe shops and sports stores and um, all that sort of thing. And it's really cut her teeth there as well. And the beauty about meeting Linda was that it was probably the reason I stayed here for a start, but also just her her social connections were just so huge that just introduced me to even a wider bunch of people. Just not Ray White customers, but her friends and family and all that sort of stuff as well. It's quite amazing how connected this joint is.
Mm.
Everyone knows everybody.
100%. Right, John, appreciate your time today.
Yeah, terrific. Thanks for the chance to come here.
No worries.